The void of space does not carry sound, yet the departure of an angel leaves a silence loud enough to shatter the soul. It happened not with a bang, but with a cold, precise indifference. On the scarred surface of Beerus' world, the dust had barely settled from the sparring match, a match Goku had lost, not due to lack of power, but due to a limit in potential that Whis had finally deemed absolute. Goku lay on his back, his chest heaving, the silver sheen of Ultra Instinct fading from his eyes like dying starlight. He reached a hand upward, expecting the usual grip of his mentor, the usual chiding remark about keeping his heart calm. Instead, he saw only the retreating back of the angel. Whis walked toward the travel cube where Broly stood. Broly, whose ki felt like an overflowing ocean, raw and limitless. "Your ceiling has been reached, Son Goku." Whis' voice carried, crisp and devoid of malice, which made it hurt all the more. "To teach you further would be to waste time better spent on clay that can still be molded. Broly is the future of Universe 7 Seconds defense." The cube hummed, a sound that vibrated in Goku's very bones. He scrambled to his feet, shouting, his voice cracking with a desperation he hadn't felt since Namek. "Whis, wait! I can still get stronger! I can push past it!" But the cube did not pause. It dissolved into a streak of prismatic light, tearing through the atmosphere and vanishing into the cosmos. They left him there, alone. The god of destruction, Beerus, watched from his temple balcony. His eyes narrowed, offering no comfort, only the silent acknowledgement of a brutal truth. Goku stood trembling, his fists clenched until the skin broke. The betrayal burned hotter than any transformation. In that moment, the student died, and something ancient, something that rejected the calm of the angels, began to wake up in the dark corners of his Saiyan blood. The path of the angel is closed, but the path of the beast has just begun. Before the universe trembles under the weight of a new power, secure your place in this timeline, subscribe now, and witness the rise of the Forbidden Dragon. The silence that followed the departure of an angel was heavier than gravity. It pressed down on the purple grass of the Destroyer's world, suffocating the wind, stifling the hum of the nearby nebulas. Goku remained on his knees, his gaze fixed on the point in the sky where the prismatic streak of the travel cube had vanished. The light was gone, the warmth was gone, and with them, the promise of the future he had chased for so long. "Get up." The voice was dry, scratching against the silence like sandpaper. Goku didn't move immediately. His mind was a fractured mosaic of the last few minutes. Whis' polite smile, the unreadable look in Broly's eyes, the finality of the word ceiling. It didn't make sense. Saiyans broke ceilings. That was the rule. That was the nature of his existence. To be told that the architecture of his potential was finite, it felt like a violation of a universal law. I said, "Get up, Son Goku." Goku slowly pushed himself off the dirt. His joints popped, the sound echoing loudly in the stillness. He turned to face Beerus. The god of destruction sat on the stump of a withered tree, cleaning a nail with the tip of a claw, his expression bored, almost clinical. There was no pity in those golden eyes. Pity was for mortals who died. Beerus looked at Goku like a tool that had simply rusted past utility. "Has not coming back for you," Beerus said, blowing the dust from his finger. "Whis doesn't make U-turns. Once he decides a fruit has rotted on the vine, he finds a fresh seed. Broly is that seed. You are the compost." "I'm not done," Goku whispered, the sound vibrating in his throat. "You are," Beerus countered, his voice dropping an octave, carrying the weight of a god's decree. "You've spent years mimicking us. Red hair, blue hair, silver eyes. You've become a very convincing imitation of a deity. But that's the problem, isn't it? An imitation has limits. The original does not. You reach for Ultra Instinct, a state of mind designed for angels, beings without conflict. But look at you." Beerus gestured vaguely at Goku's trembling fists. "You are conflict incarnate. You are a Saiyan. Trying to make you an angel is like trying to teach a fire to freeze. It was a failed experiment. Whis just admitted it before I did." "No," Goku roared. The sound tore from his lungs, startling a flock of oracle fish in the distance. "I can do it." "I'll show him." He squeezed his eyes shut, desperate to find that elusive, shimmering point of tranquility within the storm of his spirit. He reached for the silver light. He tried to quiet the thundering of his heart, to separate his consciousness from his flesh. The familiar heat began to rise, the divine heat of the Ultra Instinct. His hair lifted, flickering between black and silver. The ethereal aura exploded around him, cracking the ground beneath his boots. But it was wrong. The energy wasn't flowing like a river. It was crashing like a tsunami against a dam. His rage, his feelings of betrayal, his desperate need for validation, they were all impurities, staining the white purity of the technique. The silver aura turned jagged, sparking with violent feedback. "Calm the heart." Goku gritted out through clenched teeth, veins bulging on his forehead. "Empty. The mind. Why did he leave me? Am I not enough? After everything I gave? The thoughts screamed louder than the technique. The contradiction was fatal. The silver aura didn't just fade, it shattered. A shockwave of rejected ki exploded outward from Goku's core, blasting him backward. He slammed into the base of the massive tree where Beerus sat, coughing up blood. The divine energy had lashed out at its host, punishing him for trying to wield it with a stained soul. Goku lay in the dirt, the taste of copper in his mouth. The silver was gone. He was just Goku again, just immortal. Beerus sighed, standing up and dusting off his Hakama trousers. Pathetic. The angels require emptiness. You are full of noise. Go home, Goku. Go back to Earth. Grow radishes. Be a father. The realm of the gods is close to you now. The destroyer turned his back and walked toward his temple, his tail swishing lazily behind him. He didn't look back. He didn't check to see if Goku could stand. The audience was over. Goku watched him go. The physical pain in his chest was nothing compared to the cold, hollow pit opening in his stomach. For the first time in his life, the path forward wasn't just blocked. It was erased. There was no master to seek, no technique to learn. The peak had been reached, and he had been found wanting. But as the sun of the destroyer's world began to set, casting long, bruised shadows across the wasteland, Goku felt something else. It wasn't ki. It wasn't the warm, familiar sense of his friends on Earth, nor the terrifying pressure of a god. It was a sound, a low, rhythmic thrumming, deep in the marrow of his bones. It felt like a heartbeat, but massive, slow, ancient, and buried under layers of reality. Thump, thump. It came from the dark. Not the dark of night, but the dark between the stars, the dark where the angels did not tread. Goku pushed himself up, wiping the blood from his chin. His eyes, usually wide and full of naive wonder, darkened. The silver was gone, but the fire remained. If the light rejected him, he would not beg for it to return. He walked past the temple, ignoring the presence of Beerus inside. He didn't head for the warp cube. He headed for the hangar, where the older, decommissioned spacecraft were kept. If the gods were done with him, then he was done with their rules. He would find the source of that heartbeat. He would find the place where the ceiling didn't exist. The hangar of the god of destruction was a museum of forgotten conquests. Ships of geometric impossibility gathered dust in the shadows, trophies from civilizations Beerus had erased eons ago. Goku moved through the gloom, his footsteps heavy, lacking the usual bounce of his gait. He didn't look for a Whis staff or a Supreme Kai's teleportation cube. Those were tools of the divine, and he was done borrowing power. His hand rested on the cold metal of a single-seat pod. It was spherical, scarred by asteroid impacts, and older than planet Vegeta. It wasn't a ship for diplomacy. It was a coffin, meant to be fired into the dark. Goku punched the release mechanism. The hatch hissed open, exhaling stagnant air that smelled of rust and dried blood. He climbed inside, the cockpit cramping his frame. As the systems flickered to life, bathing his face in a harsh amber glow, he hesitated. His hand hovered over the navigation console. To leave now was to accept the exile. To leave now was to admit that the dream of walking beside the angels was dead. Goodbye, he whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was speaking to. He didn't punch in coordinates for Earth. He didn't lock onto King Kai's planet. He closed his eyes, focusing not on ki, but on that deep, rhythmic thrumming calling to him from the abyss. It was a beacon that bypassed the senses, vibrating directly against his Saiyan instincts. He grabbed the manual stick and slammed the throttle forward. The pod screamed as it tore out of the hangar, a streak of desperate fire cutting through the violet sky of Beerus' world. Below, on the balcony of the temple, the god of destruction watched the exhaust trail fade. Beerus did not raise a hand to stop him. He simply closed his eyes, sensing the trajectory. Heading for the null sector. Beerus muttered, his ears twitching. The fool. There is nothing there but ghosts. The journey was not measured in hours, but in the slow, agonizing stripping away of the self. Goku sat in the cramping darkness of the pod, the starlight traversing the viewport, blurring into continuous lines of white. He passed the galactic center. He passed the patrol routes of the galactic patrol. He passed the boundaries where the Supreme Kais held dominion. As the days bled into weeks, the silence of the capsule forced him to confront the noise in his head. For years, Whis had told him to find harmony, to synchronize his mind and body, to let go of thought. Goku tried to meditate, crossing his legs in the tight space, breathing in the recycled air. He tried to summon the calm, clear the mind, be like water, but the water was boiling. Every time he tried to find peace, he saw Brawl's back. He saw Jiren's glare. He saw Frieza's smirk. He saw the faces of every enemy who had pushed him, not through calm, but through sheer, unadulterated will. It was a lie, Goku murmured, his eyes snapping open in the dark. The amber light of the console reflected in his irises, which were dark and trembling. I'm not water. I never was. He looked at his hands. They were calloused, scarred, built for breaking, not for flowing. The Ultra Instinct was a technique for beings who ruled from above, but Goku was a creature who climbed from below. The effort to suppress his nature had been the very thing holding him back. I don't need to be empty, he growled, the pod shaking as it hit the turbulence of the universe's edge. I need to be full. I need to burn. He gripped the controls, and for the first time in a decade, he stopped suppressing his base energy. He stopped trying to refine it into God Ki. He stopped trying to make it smooth and palatable for the deities. He let the raw, jagged, golden-tinged Saiyan energy flood the cabin. The scouter on the dashboard exploded. The glass of the viewport cracked. The pod breached the final barrier of the mapped universe. The stars vanished. There was no gradual fading. One moment, the cosmos was a tapestry of light. The next, it was an ocean of absolute black. This was the sector of Null, a region of space where the light of creation had failed to take hold. There were no planets here, only the drifting carcasses of dead stars and clouds of gravitational dust that crushed anything that ventured too close. The navigation system died. The engines sputtered, choked by the sudden density of the space outside. The heartbeat was deafening now. It wasn't a sound anymore. It was a physical pressure, squeezing the hull of the ship. Thump, thump. I'm here, Goku gasped. The gravity of the null sector pressing him into his seat with the weight of 100 planets. I can feel you. The pod was caught in a current of invisible energy. It spun violently, tumbling through the void. The alarms shrieked a flat, electronic wail that signaled imminent structural failure. The hull groaned, metal buckling inward. Goku kicked the hatch. It flew off, spinning into the darkness. He dragged himself out of the dying ship, floating into the vacuum. There was no air, but his ki flared instinctively, forming a barrier that held a pocket of atmosphere around him. He drifted away from the wreckage, a tiny speck of golden light in an infinite throat of darkness. He spun in the void, searching. And then, he saw it. It wasn't a planet. It was a tear in the fabric of reality itself. A colossal, vertical wound in space, bleeding a thick, golden mist. The mist didn't dissipate. It coiled like a living thing, heavy and possessive. The heartbeat was radiating from inside that rift. It was the throat of the universe, leading to a stomach that the Kais had forgotten. Goku floated before the rift, the golden mist licking at his ki barrier, tasting him. He felt a terror he hadn't experienced since he was a child facing King Piccolo. This wasn't the clean, sharp fear of facing a strong opponent. This was the primal fear of a prey animal standing before a predator's den. Forbidden Realm. Goku whispered, the name surfacing from a memory he didn't know he had. His body screamed at him to turn back. His god, Ki, buried deep inside, recoiled in disgust at the energy leaking from the rift. It felt oily, ancient, and hungry. But Goku didn't turn back. He clenched his fists, extinguishing the golden flare of his Super Saiyan aura. He let the darkness touch his skin. He let the cold of the null sector bite into him. If the angels won't take me, Goku said to the void, his voice carried by his ki, then it'll take whatever is in there. He engaged his aura one last time. Not the blue of the gods, nor the gold of the Super Saiyan, but a raw, white burst of propulsion. He dove straight into the wound in the universe. The golden mist swallowed him whole. The reality of Universe 7 ceased to exist behind him. He was no longer an orphan of the stars. He was a pilgrim in the land of monsters. The transition was not a passage through distance, but a descent through density. Goku did not land. He was deposited. He hit the ground with the force of a falling meteor, burying himself deep into a surface that felt less like soil and more like hardened, calcified muscle. The impact should have shattered a planet, but here, it merely kicked up a cloud of heavy, luminous dust. He lay there for a long moment, gasping. The air, if it could be called air, was thick and viscous. It tasted of sulfur, ozone, and something metallic, like blood, left on a rusty blade. Every breath was a labor, dragging a slurry of heavy isotopes into his lungs. The gravity was atrocious. It pressed against his eyes, his heart, his very marrow. The gravity of King Kai's planet was a feather compared to this mountain. Goku forced his eyes open. Above him, there was no sky. There was only a churning, golden ceiling of nebulas, swirling in slow, hypnotic knots. They didn't shine like stars. They glowed with a dull, sickly incandescence, casting long, shifting shadows that seemed to grab at his ankles. Where? Goku wheezed, pushing himself up. His gi was shredded, his skin bruised from the entry. He tried to fly, to summon his ki for a burst of levitation, but his energy sputtered. The atmosphere here dampened ki, eating it before it could leave his body. He was grounded. He looked out at the horizon. It was a landscape of jagged spires and vast, liquid lakes of molten gold. that bubbled sluggishly. It was beautiful, in the way a forest fire is beautiful, majestic, and utterly hostile to life. This was the Forbidden Realm, the prison of the divine dragon. A sound tore through the heavy air, a shriek that sounded like grinding metal. Goku spun around, dropping into a defensive stance. The golden mist that hugged the ground began to coalesce. It rose up, twisting and hardening, forming shapes that mocked the biology of the living universe. They were lupine, but wrong. Too many limbs, jaws that unhinged sideways, bodies made of semi-solid light and solidified magma. The guardians of the realm. They didn't wait. 3 of them lunged, moving with a terrifying speed that defied the crushing gravity. Ha! Goku shouted, instinctively reaching for the calm precision of God Ki. He tried to turn his hair blue, to summon the divine pressure that would crush these beasts. Nothing happened. The blue form flickered for a microsecond, and then died, suffocated by the environment. The Forbidden Realm rejected the energy of the Kais and angels. It was an immune system, and Goku was the virus. The first beast slammed into him. It felt like being hit by a moon. Goku was launched backward, crashing through a spire of crystallized rock. Pain raw, unmitigated pain exploded in his ribs. He tumbled across the calcified ground, skinning his elbows and knees. He barely scrambled to his feet before the second beast was on him. Its jaws clamped onto his forearm. Goku screamed, not just from the bite, but from the heat. The beast's teeth were superheated plasma. Don't think. Don't try to be a god. Survive. The old instincts took over. The ones before Whis. The ones before Kami? The ones that belonged to a child, alone in the woods. Goku bit down on his tongue, using the pain to focus. He abandoned the attempt to transform. He channeled his base ki, thick and unrefined, into his free hand. He didn't use a martial arts strike. He used a savage, downward hammer blow. Crack. He smashed the beast's skull. It didn't bleed. It shattered into sparks of dying light. The third beast lunged. Goku ducked, grabbing its tail, and spun. The gravity fought him, making the creature weigh tons. But he roared, muscles tearing, and swung the beast into the ground. He leaped onto its chest, punching wildly, abandoning form for function. He hit it until his knuckles split. He hit it until the light went out of its eyes. Goku stood over the fading corpses, his chest heaving like a bellows. Blood dripped from his arm, sizzling as it hit the ground. He wiped his mouth, his eyes wild. He hadn't fought like that in years, without grace, without beauty. It was ugly, it was brutal, and it worked. Good, a voice boomed. It came from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating in the ground beneath his boots. The angels polish cracks easily here. Only the iron remains. The golden nebulas above parted. A path of solid light unrolled before Goku, leading toward a massive, floating island. In the distance, a mountain suspended in the golden void, chained by lightning. Goku didn't ask who spoke. He knew. He limped forward, stepping onto the path. The trek to the floating mountain was a pilgrimage of agony. Every step was a battle against the crushing weight. By the time Goku reached the summit, his vision was blurring. The peak was a flat plateau of obsidian, smooth as a mirror. In the center sat a throne, but it wasn't made of gold or jewels. It was made of dragon scales, each one the size of a shield, black as the void outside. Sitting on the throne was not a dragon. It was a man. He was tall, with skin the color of burnished bronze, and long, flowing hair that shifted between gold and crimson. He wore robes that seemed to be woven from the fabric of event horizons. His eyes were the most terrifying part. They were vertical slits of burning orange, possessing a depth that made Goku feel like he was falling. Zalama, the dragon god. Goku stopped 10 paces away, struggling to stand upright under the pressure radiating from the entity. So, Zalama said, his voice smooth, sounding like tectonic plates sliding against each other. The stray dog of Universe 7 finds his way to the kennel. I'm not a dog. Goku rasped, clutching his injured arm. And I'm not here to play games. Zalama smiled, revealing teeth that were slightly too sharp. Aren't you? You reek of the angels, Saiyan. You smell of their sterile perfume. Calm the heart. Move without thinking. Disgusting. Zalama stood up. The movement caused the entire realm to shudder. He walked down the steps of the throne, circling Goku like a shark circling a shipwreck. Tell me, son Goku, why did they cast you out? Did you finally realize that a fire cannot be cold? They said I had a ceiling. Goku admitted, the words tasting like ash. They said I couldn't get any stronger, that I was broken. Broken. Zalama mused, stopping in front of him. He reached out a hand, his long fingers hovering over Goku's chest. Goku felt a searing heat penetrate his ribs, touching his heart. No, not broken, caged. The dragon god turned away, looking out over the golden ocean of his prison. The angels, they are static. They preserve balance. To them, power is a state of absolute zero, perfect control, perfect stillness. That is why they are strong. But you? Zalama glanced back over his shoulder. You are a Saiyan. Your race was not forged in the light of the Kais. Do you know where you come from, boy? Goku shook his head. Planet Vegeta. Before that. Zalama corrected. Eons ago. Before the Kais pruned the timeline. The Saiyans were not mortals who learned to use ki. They were beasts who drank the blood of dragons. Goku's eyes widened. What? Why do you think the Dragon Balls called to you? Zalama asked, his voice rising. Why do you think your race seeks conflict like oxygen? Why do you have a transformation called Great Ape? You are creatures of metamorphosis. The angels tried to civilize you. They tried to teach a predator to be a monk, and when you failed to become a statue, they discarded you. Zalama walked back to Goku, his eyes burning with an ancient, terrifying intensity. I do not offer wishes here, son Goku. I do not grant favors, but I offer a return. A return to what? Goku asked, his heart pounding against his ribs. To the source, Zalama whispered. I can unlock the genetic memory your species lost. I can wake the dragon that sleeps in your marrow. It is not God Ki. It is not calm. It is primal power. It is the power of evolution through trauma. It feeds on emotion, rage, love, greed, pride. It burns it all as fuel. Goku looked at his hands. He thought of the Ultra Instinct, the silence, the peace. It had been beautiful, but it had always felt like wearing someone else's clothes. If I take this power, Goku asked, looking up at the god, can I beat them? Can I surpass the angels? Zalama threw his head back and laughed a sound that cracked the obsidian floor. Surpass them? Child, if you survive the transformation, you will hunt them. But there is a price. The laughter stopped abruptly. The silence returned, heavier than before. The dragon and the angel are opposites, oil and water, chaos and order. If you accept my blood, the divine ki of the Kais will abandon you forever. You will never again feel the serenity of Ultra Instinct. You will never again be able to hide your presence. You will become a beacon of chaotic energy. The gods will not see you as a warrior anymore. They will see you as a monster, a threat to be erased. Zalama leaned in close, his face inches from Goku's. The heat coming off him was enough to blister skin. You will be powerful, but you will be alone. Are you willing to burn the bridge to heaven just to learn how to fly? Goku closed his eyes. He saw the back of Whis turning away. He heard the dismissal. Compost. He thought of the years he spent suppressing his excitement, suppressing his anger, trying to be the perfect student. He thought of the thrill of the fight, the blood pumping, the scream in the throat. That was who he was. He wasn't a monk. He was a fighter. Goku opened his eyes. The hesitation was gone. The naive sparkle was gone. In its place was a hard, grim resolve. I don't care about heaven, Goku said, his voice steady. And, I'm tired of being calm. He stepped forward, meeting the dragon god's gaze. Give it to me. Make me the monster. Zalama smiled, and this time, it wasn't mocking. It was the smile of an artist, looking at a blank canvas. Very well, Zalama said. He raised his hand, and the golden nebulas above began to swirl violently, descending like a funnel cloud. The lightning turned red. Then let us strip away the lie. The dragon god placed his palm directly over Goku's heart. Brace yourself, son Goku. Rebirth is not a painless process. Zalama's hand erupted with a blinding, crimson light. The pain was not immediate. It arrived with a deceptive slowness, like a drop of ink falling into a glass of clear water, swirling, expanding, until suddenly, the entire vessel was black. When Zalama's palm connected with Goku's chest, the Saiyan expected an explosion. He expected the familiar rush of ki, the expansion of senses. Instead, he felt an invasion. The energy of the dragon god didn't flow into his meridians. It burrowed into them. It felt heavy, thick, and oily, slithering through his veins like molten lead, hunting down every trace of the training he had accumulated over the decades. Goku fell to his knees, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The oxygen in his lungs evaporated instantly, replaced by a searing heat that radiated from the inside out. The vessel must be emptied before it can be filled. Zalama's voice echoed, sounding like it was coming from inside Goku's own skull. The divine light is a parasite. It must be burned out. Goku clutched at his chest, his fingers digging into his own flesh. His body, conditioned by Whis to instinctively protect itself, tried to fight back. A flare of blue light, the Super Saiyan blue aura, erupted around him. It was a desperate defense mechanism, the God Ki rallying to expel the foreign invader. But the blue aura didn't shimmer. It flickered violently, like a candle in a hurricane. The dragon's blood, that primal, ancient essence Zalama was pouring into him, attacked the God Ki with predatory malice. Inside Goku's body, a war was being waged on a cellular level. The calm, tranquil blue energy was besieged by a chaotic, crimson tide. Goku retched, slamming his hands onto the obsidian floor. He didn't vomit blood, he vomited light. A stream of misty, blue particles poured from his mouth, dissipating into the heavy air of the Forbidden Realm. "Let it go," Zalama commanded, standing over him like a monolith. "The calm is dying. Do not mourn it." Goku's vision blurred. He felt the specific pathways in his brain that Whis had opened, the neural connections that allowed for Ultra Instinct beginning to sear. It felt like someone was taking a soldering iron to his memories. The sensation of the water, the feeling of the empty sky, the tranquility, it was all being incinerated. "No," Goku gasped, tears evaporating off his cheeks before they could fall. I worked so hard, and that work built a glass house." Zalama sneered. "Now we build a fortress." The dragon god pressed harder. The screaming started then. It wasn't a scream of exertion, it was the sound of biology being rewritten. Goku's back arched, his spine cracking audibly as the vertebrae were forced to expand. The blue light died completely, extinguished by a surge of dark, magma-red energy that exploded from his core. This wasn't ki. It was mass. It was gravity. Goku's skin began to gray, losing its mortal peach tone. The muscles beneath swelled, tearing the remains of his orange gi. But they didn't just grow larger, they grew denser. The fibers twisted and knotted, becoming hard as steel cables. Then came the scales. They didn't grow over his skin, they erupted through it. Small, jagged plates of crimson keratin pierced through his shoulders, his forearms, his chest. Blood sprayed, sizzling instantly against the heat of the new armor. Goku thrashed on the ground, his fingernails scraping grooves into the obsidian. The pain was absolute. It was the pain of evolution, the biological cost of jumping 1,000,000 years of natural selection in a few seconds. The Saiyans of old did not hide behind auras. Zalama intoned, watching the gruesome spectacle with a cold satisfaction. They were the weapon. Their skin was the shield. Their bone was the blade. Goku rolled onto his back, his eyes wide and unseeing. The whites of his eyes were flooding with black, the sclera darkening until his eyes looked like voids. In the center, the irises burned gold, but the round pupils stretched, narrowing, sharpening into vertical slits. The dragon's greed hit him. It wasn't a physical sensation, but a psychological tidal wave. Suddenly, the universe didn't look like a place to protect. It looked like a place to own. Mine. The thought roared in his head, drowning out the pain. That power, mine. That star, mine. That life, mine. It was a hunger so profound it made the hunger for food seem trivial. It was a hunger for dominance, the instinct of the apex predator. He wanted to hoard the energy of the realm. He wanted to swallow the nebulas. He wanted to tear the throat out of anyone who stood above him, kill the angel, eat the god. G-A-double-H. Goku slammed his head against the floor, trying to knock the voice out. This wasn't him. He was Son Goku. He was the protector of Earth. He didn't want to rule. "Do not fight the hunger, Saiyan," Zalama roared, his voice cutting through the madness. "The angel suppresses desire. The dragon weaponizes it. You want to win? You want to break your limits? Then you must want it more than you want to breathe. You must be greedy for it." Goku's hands clawed at the air. He saw images of his failures. Frieza killing Krillin. Cell crushing Android 16. Boo wiping out the planet. Jiren stopping his strongest attack with a glare. Whis turning his back. "Why did I lose?" The voice in his blood answered, "Because you held back. Because you were content. Because you accepted your place." The red scales spread up his neck, covering his jawline. A ridge of bone pushed through his brow, giving him a terrifying, prehistoric visage. His hair spiked up, not in the fluid waves of Super Saiyan, but in rigid, heavy spikes that looked like a mane of black quills dipped in blood. Goku stopped thrashing. He lay still, his breath coming in ragged, guttural hitches. Steam rose from his body, creating a column of heat that distorted the air. The transformation was complete. The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with a new kind of threat. Zalama stepped back, folding his arms. "Rise. First of the new lineage." The thing on the floor stirred. Goku pushed himself up. The movement was different. There was no wasted motion, no lightness. He moved with the heavy, hydraulic power of a machine. He stood to his full height, and he seemed taller, broader. His chest was encased in a natural cuirass of crimson scales that shimmered with an inner, molten light. His arms were armored gauntlets of muscle and bone. He looked at his hands. The fingers were tipped with black claws. He clenched his fist. The air inside his grip detonated, creating a small vacuum shockwave. Goku looked up at Zalama. The silver light of the divine was gone. In its place was a heavy, suffocating pressure, a red and black aura that didn't flow upward like flame, but dripped downward like liquid fire, pooling around his feet, melting the stone. "How does it feel?" Zalama asked. Goku opened his mouth. His voice was deeper, layered with a subharmonic growl that vibrated in the chest of anyone listening. Heavy, Goku said. It feels heavy. Good. Zalama nodded. Weight is reality. Lightness is a lie. Goku turned his head, looking toward the edge of the plateau, toward the golden nebulas and the floating spires of the Forbidden Realm. He felt the environment pressing on him, the crushing gravity that had brought him to his knees hours ago. Now, he didn't feel crushed. He felt challenged. I need to test it, Goku growled. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't bow. The deference was gone. He bent his knees and launched himself into the air. The launch shattered the obsidian plateau. A crater the size of a city block exploded beneath him as he tore through the atmosphere of the Forbidden Realm. He flew without key propulsion. He flew by kicking the air so hard it solidified, propelling him forward on pure physical force. He aimed for one of the massive, floating mountains, chained by lightning. A construct of the realm, a leviathan made of living stone and magma, 10 times the size of the ones he fought earlier, rose to intercept him. It roared, opening a maw wide enough to swallow a spaceship. Goku didn't dodge. He didn't use a beam. He flew straight into the mouth of the beast. Inside the darkness of the creature's maw, a red light flared. Zoodum! The leviathan exploded from the inside out. Chunks of burning rock rained down into the golden void. Goku emerged from the smoke, covered in the creature's molten blue blood. He didn't stop. He accelerated toward the mountain. He drew his fist back. The red aura concentrated around his arm, forming the shape of a spectral dragon's head, jaws open, roaring in silent tandem with him. Dragon. Fist. He punched the mountain. Physics broke. The impact didn't just break the rock. It atomized the structural integrity of the matter. A beam of red energy, thick as a skyscraper, punched all the way through the mountain and continued for miles, parting the golden sea of nebulas behind it. The mountain groaned, then disintegrated, turning into a cloud of dust. Goku hovered in the void, surrounded by the debris of his destruction. He looked at the path of devastation he had carved. He felt the greed pulsing in his veins. It wanted more. It wanted to break the next mountain. It wanted to break the sky. It wanted to break the universe. For a moment, he nearly lost himself to it. The urge to simply destroy was intoxicating. It was a drug more potent than the calm of Ultra Instinct ever was. Stop. The thought was small, but it was his. Goku closed his eyes, his claws trembling. He forced the red aura to recede, forced the greed to heal. It was like wrestling a tiger, but he managed to leash it. He was the master of the beast, not its meal. He turned back toward Zalama's temple. He floated there, a crimson demon in the sky, breathing hard. He had lost the grace of the angels. He had lost the ability to be unseen. He was now a walking cataclysm, a beacon of violence that would scream his location to every deity in the cosmos. But as he clenched his armored fist, feeling the raw, unadulterated power coursing through his scales, Goku smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. He finally had the power to shatter the ceiling. 1 year had passed since the travel cube vanished into the stars. On the cliffs overlooking the wastelands of Yunzabit, the air was still. It was an unnatural stillness, the kind that usually precedes a painting, not a battle. Broly sat cross-legged in midair, hovering 3 feet above the sharp rocks. His breathing was imperceptible. His massive frame, once a vessel for uncontrollable rage, was now a monument to discipline. A butterfly, wings painted with the iridescent dust of the wasteland, landed on the bridge of his nose. Broly did not twitch. His ki was completely retracted, pulled so deep within his core that to an outside observer, he would appear as lifeless as the stones beneath him. Excellent. Whis' voice chimed, the angel floating casually beside him, holding a parfait glass. The vessel is sealed. Your emotions are no longer a leaking faucet, Broly. They are a reservoir. Still, deep, controlled. Broly opened his eyes. They were clear, dark, and devoid of the chaotic storm that had defined his life. I feel empty, but strong. Emptiness is strength. Whis corrected gently, taking a delicate bite of the dessert. When you are empty, you can move without friction. You can react without hesitation. You are finally ready to assume the mantle of Universe 7 Seconds Protector. Beerus, lying on a conjured sun chair nearby, cracked one eye open. About time. I was getting tired of sensing his temper tantrums every other Tuesday. Now, if only we hadn't wasted so much time on the other one. The mention of Goku hung in the air, like a discordant note. Broly's expression tightened imperceptibly, a ripple on the surface of the water, but he smoothed it out instantly. He had learned to let go of attachment. Goku was the past, a failed branch of the tree. He chose his path, Whis said, though his voice lacked its usual playfulness. Or rather, he refused to accept the one laid out for him. It is a pity, but the cosmos does not wait for those who... The angel stopped. The parfait spoon froze halfway to his mouth. Beerus sat up instantly, the sun chair vanishing into smoke. His ears flattened against his skull, and the fur along his spine stood rigid. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a key signature. It was a vibration, a deep, nausea-inducing frequency that rattled the teeth in their skulls. The sky above the wasteland, usually a dusty blue, bruised instantly into a sickly shade of violet. Clouds didn't drift. They were torn apart by an invisible pressure descending from the upper atmosphere. This sensation, Beerus whispered, his voice trembling. It can't be. The Grand Minister forbade it. The seal was absolute. What is it? Broly asked, unfolding his legs and descending to the ground. He felt a primal terror rising in his gut, an instinct screaming at him to run, but his training held him in place, ancient. Whis said, his playful demeanor replaced by a cold, sharp vigilance, something that predates the laws of this universe. Space didn't warp, it broke. 1,000 feet above them, reality shattered like a pane of glass hit by a sledgehammer. A vertical tear, bleeding crimson light, and thick, golden mist, ripped open the sky. The gravity in the wasteland increased tenfold in an instant, crushing the rocks into powder. From the bleeding wound in the sky, a figure descended. He didn't fly. He fell, heavy and inexorable, like an anchor dropped into the sea. He hit the ground 50 yards away, creating no shockwave, only a dull, sickening thud that shook the planet's crust. Steam hissed from the impact crater. A silhouette rose from the dust, bulky, spined, and radiating a heat that turned the surrounding sand into glass. Beerus took a step back, sweat beading on his muzzle. That energy. It tastes like blood. It tastes like him. The dust cleared. Son Goku stood before them, but the man they knew was gone. The orange gi was shredded, hanging in tatters around a waist that was now armored in dark, overlapping scales. His skin was a dull, metallic gray, contrasting with the vibrant, magma-red plates that covered his chest, shoulders, and forearms. A ridge of bone protected his brow, framing eyes that were black pools with burning, vertical golden slits. He looked less like a martial artist and more like a demon pulled from a myth. Goku, Broly whispered, his composure cracking. The creature tilted its head. The movement was stiff, mechanical. I haven't heard that name in a long time, Goku said. His voice was a subterranean rumble, grinding against the air. It sounds small. Whis tapped his staff on the ground, his face hardening into the expression of a judge. Son Goku, you reek of the Forbidden Realm. You have consorted with the exile, Zalama. Do you have any idea of the crime you have committed? Goku looked at the angel. There was no recognition in his eyes, no reverence. Only the cold calculation of a predator assessing a threat. I didn't go there to commit a crime, Whis, Goku growled. I went there to find what you threw away. I threw away a broken tool, Whis replied coldly. I see you have returned as a weapon, but weapons that cannot be controlled must be dismantled. Whis signaled to Broly. Broly, detain him. Do not kill him if you can avoid it, but his existence is now a violation of divine law. He is a contamination. Broly hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. He stepped forward, his aura flaring to life. It was a beautiful, emerald green, controlled, silent, and potent. He entered the legendary Super Saiyan state, but there was no screaming, no bulking muscles. It was the full power-controlled form, refined by angel training. He was a masterpiece of martial perfection. I don't want to do this, Kakarot, Broly said, raising his fists in a perfect defensive stance. Surrender. Goku let out a short, harsh laugh. It sounded like rocks tumbling down a cliff. Surrender. Goku unclenched his hands, revealing the black claws. You talk like them now. You talk like prey. Boom. The fight began not with a movement, but with a displacement of air. Broly vanished, reappearing instantly behind Goku. A precision chop aimed at the nerve cluster in the neck, a move Whis had taught him to incapacitate without killing. It connected. Clang. The sound was not of flesh being struck, but of a hammer hitting an anvil. Brawl's hand vibrated from the impact. Goku hadn't moved. He hadn't blocked. He had simply taken the hit on his scaled neck. Goku turned slowly, his slit pupils locking onto Brawl's wide eyes. Is that it? Goku asked. Is that the ceiling they taught you? Broly retreated instantly, backflipping away as Goku swung a massive, clawed backhand. The swing missed, but the air pressure generated by the motion carved a trench in the cliff face half a mile away. Hes dense, Broly shouted to Whis, circling rapidly. I can't penetrate his guard. His skin is it's like hitting a star. Don't strike the armor, Whis instructed, his eyes narrowing. Use his weight against him. He is heavy, sluggish. Flow around him, Broly. Be the water. Broly nodded. He shifted gears. He began to move with blinding speed, leaving afterimages that confused the eye. He was everywhere at once, peppering Goku with hundreds of precision ki blasts, targeting the joints, the eyes, the soft spots. Goku stood in the center of the storm, arms crossed over his chest. The blasts exploded against his scales, creating a cloud of smoke and fire. He didn't dodge, he didn't weave, he absorbed it. The Dragon Bloodline did not evade, it conquered. As Broly moved in for a complex grapple, intending to use Goku's momentum to throw him, Goku moved. It wasn't fast, it was inevitable. Goku's hand shot out, grabbing Broly's wrist. Broly's eyes widened. He tried to phase out, to slip the grip using the flow of ki, but he couldn't. Goku's ki wasn't flowing, it was clutching. It was sticky, heavy, and possessive. The greed in Goku's energy latched onto Broly's aura and crushed it. Caught you. Goku snarled. He pulled Broly in. Broly fired a point-blank energy wave into Goku's face. The blast detonated, burning the air. But Goku didn't flinch. He headbutted Broly. The sound was sickening. Broly's nose crunched. The angel student stunned, his focus shattered by the sheer brutality of the attack. Goku didn't let go. He spun, dragging Broly through the air, and slammed him into the ground. The impact triggered an earthquake that was felt in West City. Goku lifted his foot a heavy, armored stomp, aimed at Broly's chest. Broly roared, his control slipping. He flared his power, exploding outward in a sphere of green energy to force Goku back. Goku skidded backward, his claws carving furrows in the bedrock to slow his momentum. Broly stood up, panting, blood streaming from his nose. His calm demeanor was cracking. The emerald aura spiked, jagged edges of rage beginning to appear. You, Broly gasped. You're not fighting. You're just hurting. I'm winning, Goku corrected. He walked forward, the red aura dripping off him like liquid tar. Whis taught you to clear your mind, to empty yourself so you could borrow the power of the universe. But the universe doesn't want to be borrowed, Broly. Goku clenched his fist, and the space around it warped, red lightning arcing violently. Zalama taught me the truth. You don't ask the universe for power, you take it. You rip it out of the sky and make it yours. Goku vanished. This time, it wasn't speed. It was a gravitational pull. He folded space, appearing directly in front of Broly. Broly panicked. He threw a punch with everything. He had a planet-cracking strike. Goku caught the fist. He caught it. The shockwave leveled the surrounding mountains, but Goku's feet didn't move. He held Broly's fist in his clawed hand, the red scales glowing white-hot from the friction. Look at you, Goku whispered, leaning in, his face a mask of terrifying intensity. An angel's puppet. All that power, and you're afraid to break the toy. Goku squeezed. The sound of Broly's hand fracturing was audible. Broly screamed a sound of pain and genuine fear. He kicked out, driving his knee into Goku's gut, but it was like kicking a mountain. Goku didn't budge. Sleep, Goku said. He delivered a single punch to Broly's gut. It wasn't a snap punch. It was a heavy, driving plow blow. The impact exited through Broly's back, creating a cone of air pressure that punched a hole through the clouds. Broly's eyes rolled back. The green aura vanished instantly. He crumpled, falling to his knees, then to his face. The perfect vessel of the angels lay broken in the dirt. Silence returned to the wasteland. Goku stood over the fallen Saiyan, steam rising from his shoulders. He didn't look tired. He looked unsatisfied. The hunger in his blood was pulsing. More, not enough. He turned his gaze slowly to the two figures remaining. Beerus was standing now, his hand raised, a sphere of destruction energy Hakai forming in his palm. His face was pale, but his eyes were grim. I should have destroyed you the moment you returned, Beerus said, his voice low. We stepped in front of the destroyer. The angel's face was no longer neutral. It was grave. He held his staff horizontally, the ring floating around his neck, glowing with a blinding intensity. This has gone far enough, Whis said. The air around him shimmered, bending to his will. You have defeated the student, Goku. But do not mistake a candle for the sun. Goku looked at the angel, the being who had been his mentor, his goal, his ceiling. He felt the fear. The old Goku would have bowed. The old Goku would have laughed and asked for a spar. The dragon Goku felt his lips curl back, revealing his teeth. The scales on his arms stood up. The red aura expanded, turning the sky the color of dried blood. I'm not looking for the sun, Goku growled, crouching into a stance that was pure, predatory violence. I'm looking for the neck. The ground beneath him melted. Come on, Whis. Show me the ceiling now. The wind died first. Then, the light. Finally, the concept of time itself began to stutter. When an angel decides to fight, the universe holds its breath, out of respect, or perhaps, out of terror. Whis did not power up. He did not scream. He simply ceased to be in one location and began to exist in another. It was a movement that bypassed the crude laws of physics, a step taken through the seams of reality. He appeared directly in front of Goku, the burgundy staff, blurring into a streak of violet light aimed at the Saiyan's temple. It was the knockout tap, the move that had humbled gods of destruction for eons. It was swift, precise, and merciful, but mercy had no currency here. Thoom. The sound was not of a strike connecting, but of a heavy object falling into a deep ocean. Goku hadn't blocked it. He hadn't dodged. The staff had struck the ridge of bone, protecting his brow. The impact created a shockwave that flattened the wastelands of Yunzabit instantly, turning miles of rock into fine, white sand. Whis' eyes, usually narrow and calm, widened a fraction. The staff vibrated in his grip, the feedback running up his arm. Goku's head hadn't moved a millimeter. "You hold back," Goku grumbled, his voice sounding like grinding tectonic plates. The red light in his slit pupils flared. "You still think I'm a student to be scolded? I think you are a tragedy," Whis replied softly. The angel spun the staff, the gem at its tip glowing with the power of temporal do-over. He manipulated the flow of time, rewinding the second to strike again, this time aiming for the heart, seeking to disrupt the ki flow and force unconsciousness. But as time reversed, Goku moved with it. This was the horror of the Dragon Bloodline. Zalama was not bound by the linear time of the angels. The dragon existed in the chaotic now. Goku's new biology rejected the temporal manipulation. As Whis rewound reality, Goku simply stepped through the distortion, his heavy, magma-red aura burning away the time magic like fire burns away paper. "No tricks," Goku roared, swinging a clawed haymaker. Whis leaned back, the blow missing his nose by a hair's breadth. The air pressure from the miss vaporized a mountain range on the horizon. "Your power is crude," Whis observed, dancing backward, his movements fluid like water, flowing around the jagged rocks of Goku's aggression. "It is heavy, it leaks. You are bleeding energy into the void, Goku. You will burn out before you land a single clean hit." "I don't need to be clean," Goku snarled, stomping the ground. "I just need to be heavy." Goku slammed his hands together. The red aura exploded, not outward, but downward. The gravity around them multiplied by 1,000, then 10,000. The bedrock cracked, sinking deep into the mantle. Whis frowned. His levitation faltered. The sheer weight of Goku's presence was warping the space-time coordinates the angel relied on. The stage was being tilted. "You are dragging the world down with you," Whis admonished, tapping his staff to generate a shield. "Then come down here and fight me." Goku lunged, bursting through the gravity well like a shark breaching water. He collided with Whis' shield. The barrier, made of divine energy, groaned under the pressure. Goku didn't punch it. He clawed at it. His fingers, tipped with the black nails of the dragon, dug into the divine light. The greed in his blood screamed. It wanted to eat the shield. It wanted to eat the angel. Crack. A spiderweb fracture appeared on the angel's barrier. Beerus, watching from the edge of the crater, felt a cold sweat run down his spine. He cracked it. "That's impossible. Angelic energy is absolute. Nothing is absolute," Goku shouted, tearing the barrier open with a savage rip. "Everything breaks." He drove a fist toward Whis' face. Whis parried, using the shaft of his staff to redirect the blow. But the moment their energies touched the silver of the angel and the crimson of the dragon, a reaction occurred. A sphere of black lightning erupted, obliterating the ground beneath them. They traded blows. To a normal eye, they would have been invisible. But to the cosmos, they were two distinct frequencies screaming at each other. Whis was a melody complex, perfect, harmonious. Goku was a dissonance, a loud, screeching tear in the fabric of the song. Whis landed a kick to Goku's ribs. The armor cracked. Goku spat molten blood but didn't slow down. He grabbed Whis' leg. "Gotcha." Whis' eyes narrowed. He twisted his body, phasing out of reality to escape the grip. But Goku's aura lashed out like a whip, snagging the angel's ankle. The dragon energy was sticky, possessive. It refused to let go of what it had claimed. Goku swung Whis into the ground. The impact shook the entire planet. Tsunamis triggered in the oceans thousands of miles away. Whis recovered instantly, floating up from the debris, his robes slightly singed. For the first time in history, the angel looked disheveled. A smudge of dirt marred his cheek. "You have abandoned reason," Whis stated, his voice dropping the polite facade. It was now the voice of a cosmic judge. "You have become a rabid dog, and I am afraid, son Goku, that I must put you down." Whis raised his staff high. The sky opened. A column of blinding, white light descended, an angelic decree. It wasn't an attack, it was an erasure command. A concentrated beam of order meant to delete the chaos of the dragon. "Begone," Whis commanded. The beam struck Goku. The ground disintegrated. The light swallowed the Saiyan, drowning the red aura in a sea of absolute white. Beerus shielded his eyes. "Has done. Nobody survives a decree." The light burned for 10 seconds, then faded. In the center of the glass crater, smoke rose in thick, black plumes. And there, Standing amidst the ruin was Goku. He was burned. His scales were charred black. One of his eyes was swollen shut. But he was standing. His hands were raised above his head. He was holding the beam. The remnants of the angelic energy were caught in his claws, struggling like a living thing. Goku's greed was not being erased by the light. It was consuming it. The red veins in his arms bulged as he crushed the white energy, absorbing it into his own core. Is that? Goku panted, crushing the last sparks of the divine light in his fist. Is that the ceiling? He looked up at Whis, his one good eye burning with a terrifying, golden hunger. I ate it. Whis froze. The staff lowered slowly. For the first time, the angel felt a sensation he had observed in mortals but never experienced himself. Uncertainty. Goku didn't charge. He simply stood there, his body radiating a heat that was beginning to destabilize the planet's core. The dragon blood was reacting to the angelic energy he had absorbed. He was evolving again, becoming something denser, something darker. If we continue, Whis said quietly, the Earth will be destroyed. The shockwaves will shatter the solar system. I don't care, Goku said. And the terrifying part was, he meant it. The old Goku would have stopped to save the planet. This Goku, consumed by the dragon's instinct to hoard and conquer, saw the Earth only as a floor for the fight. But I do, a voice interrupted. It didn't come from the sky. It came from everywhere. The air turned purple. The gravity neutralized. The red aura around Goku and the silver aura around Whis were instantly suppressed, pushed down by a pressure so vast it made their battle feel like children wrestling in a sandbox. The Grand Minister appeared between them. He was small, his hands clasped behind his back, his smile polite and terrifyingly vacant. That is enough, Whis, the Grand Minister said. You have made your point, and you, Son Goku, you have made yours. Goku looked at the Grand Minister. The greed in his blood roared, urging him to attack, to claim this new, greater power. But Goku's survival instinct, the one thing louder than the greed, screamed, stop. This was not a fight he could win. Not yet. He is a contamination, Whis said, bowing his head slightly. Father, he is bonded with Zalama. He must be purged. The Grand Minister looked at Goku. He studied the red scales, the slit pupils, the chaotic energy. Purging him now would be complicated, the Grand Minister mused. Zalama has anchored him to the underlying fabric of the multiverse. To erase, the boy would be to tear a hole in the carpet. We would have to unravel too much. The Grand Minister floated closer to Goku. You have stepped off the path of the divine, Son Goku. You have become an avatar of the Forbidden. As such, you are no longer under the jurisdiction of Universe 7 Seconds Angel. You are a rogue variable. I'm a Saiyan, Goku corrected, his voice raspy. You are something else now. The Grand Minister smiled. But you cannot stay here. Your presence alone is poisoning the planet. Your gravity is crushing the tectonic plates. If you stay, your home dies. Goku looked down. He saw the cracks in the ground. He saw the magma seeping up. He looked over at Broly, who was unconscious, and Beerus, who looked at him with a mixture of fear and disgust. He realized the truth. The pact with Zalama had given him the power to challenge the gods, but it had cost him his place among mortals. He was too heavy for this world. He was a whale trying to live in a goldfish bowl. I understand, Goku said. The red aura receded slightly, retreating under his scales. He looked at Whis one last time. I didn't reach the ceiling, Whis, Goku said, pointing a clawed finger at the angel. I broke the roof. Remember that. He turned his back on them. Where will you go? Beerus asked, his voice hesitant. Goku didn't answer. He bent his knees, and the ground groaned one last time. Boom. He launched himself into the sky. He didn't stop at the clouds. He didn't stop at the atmosphere. He tore through the exosphere, leaving a trail of red fire that lingered in the sky like a scar. Goku floated in the deep silence of space. The earth hung below him, a fragile blue marble. He felt no urge to protect it. He felt only the cold, hard vacuum against his scales. It felt like home. He turned away from the sun, facing the endless, dark ocean of the cosmos. He could feel them out there. Stronger beings, ancient threats, sleeping gods in other universes. The greed in his blood pulsed, warm and inviting. Hunt them, take them, become them. Goku smiled. It wasn't the smile of a hero. It was the smile of a king who had finally found a kingdom large enough to conquer. He flared his aura, a red comet in the eternal night, and flew into the deep dark. The student was dead. The dragon had risen, and the universe would never be quiet again.